Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Megan Warren, inner development coach, founder of Extraordinary Lives. And she's also a podcast host, Mel Reimagined. And her mission is to help overachieving, overcommitting, people pleasing women rewrite the story of bold, authentic, and wildly fulfilling lives that dare to be extraordinary. Welcome to the show, Megan.
Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Megan. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about how women can unlock their extraordinary lives. In that backdrop, we'll talk about all these things and learn from you. But before that, Megan, if you can help us a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Sure. I'm the coach, founder, and facilitator of Extraordinary Lives. And my journey has been to help women unlock themselves, to stop checking those societal boxes of success and start orienting toward the feeling that they want to have at the end of the day and begin to check the boxes that are designed to get them there. And so I have worked in a number of different positions and industries. But what I love about what I'm doing with my co-founder now is that it's at the intersection of practice and theory, or practice and training. So it has been refined, it's been honed. We know it works, we can attest to it. And so I'm really excited to bring that to folks.
Right, Megan. So let's go straight to the point. You talk about, when life looks perfect on paper, but you secretly want to set it on fire. When it looks so perfect, why do you set the paper on fire? Means even if it's just a piece of paper where the life looks perfect, what is it? What is the problem? Is it with the life or is it with the fire within?
That is such a great question. And that is the paradox. When life looks perfect, why would you not want it? And so you feel guilty for not wanting it and you don't do anything about it. And it locks you in that box. But as I discovered, I checked those societal boxes. I went up the ladder, I did everything I was supposed to do, and I did it correctly. And at the top, I didn't have that American dream that they've exported all over the world, where you're sitting back and you're feeling great about life and yourself. I just found emptiness and disconnection. And I couldn't understand what was wrong with me that I didn't like this life. And I thought it was my fault. And so essentially, the idea is that you want to set it on fire because it's not fulfilling you. It's not bringing you the feeling that you want to have at the end of your life. And you would check all those boxes. You would have that perfect life. And then you would say at the end of your life, I have regrets. I have a load of regrets. And I didn't want to end up there. And so that's why I extrapolated from my own experience and have now created this training for women, because I don't think anybody else wants to end up there either. I think people want the extraordinary life that they can have. It's just not what's
right. We'll have to understand. Absolutely, Megan. Absolutely. We'll understand the extraordinary life. But first, let's talk about the societal boxes. What are these societal boxes that you are talking about? It's the same for everyone born. It's for men. It's also for women. It's for the child. It's for the grown-ups. We are living in a society. We have devised it that way. We want to get the benefits of society, so we live into the society. Why do we blame only when things are looking not so good on the boxes or the society? Why not our own intellect and about the choices that we have made earlier on? I want to understand in that backdrop why it's always the society, why it's not about me, why only good things it's because of me and all the bad things is because of the society. Help us understand in that backdrop. You talk about women. Let's talk about women, but It's generally also for even men also. Perhaps will understand it better then.
Sure. So I think there isn't, I would like to take away the word blame to begin with. I don't think there's blame. There's just which path are you walking? And I think a lot of us, when we start as children, we get told by our communities, by our families, what those societal boxes are. And most of them are focused on achievement and performance. And those are designed to have us achieve and perform in order to fit in order to belong. And you're right, we do absolutely want to do that. But one thing that doesn't work when we check those boxes and we belong in a way that isn't us, it's not authentic to us, then we are not truly experiencing that belonging. Our facade or our false self experiences that belonging. And then actually, what we are contributing to society is not that inner fire that drives us. You know, if I grow up and I check all the boxes and I become a director of whatever, let's say technology, and I can do it and I do a good job and I get promoted and I walk home and my family is proud of me, but inside I feel empty, the purpose that I was born here on earth to bring to light that lights me up. And because I am actually living as my true self, the impact and the ripples that I make in the world is much bigger. So I'm not suggesting that we walk away from society. I am suggesting that we change how we belong and orient it less toward performance and achievement and more towards what makes us light up. Because when I'm happy, there's an American expression that says, when mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And I can attest because I checked all those boxes. I had that perfect life. And then I wasn't happy. And so how I interacted with people, the creativity I brought to my work, etc., it wasn't as much as it is now. And when I walk through life now, the ripples I make are entirely different. And so that's what I mean by extraordinary life. When you start designing it intentionally and you're not accepting what society gives you, your family gives you from the beginning, you're actually thinking through it. Does this resonate with me? Is this mine? And sometimes it is, absolutely. But then there are other times where it's not. And so having the courage to step up and say, I'm not going in this direction because this direction doesn't add up to the feeling that I want to have at the end of my life.
Absolutely. Direction, and extraordinary life. We'll understand it. But first, we talked about stability when it looks perfect on paper, and then you want it, something else. You life want a life full of excitement. Then you talk also about, so stability is not comforting to several people in our times. You talk about then chaos, how to turn your chaos into clarity. So if you are stable, that is not happiness, and chaos is also not happiness, then you are looking for clarity. Where does this happiness lie? It's not in stability, it's not playing it safe, living a stable life, it's also not in chaos. So I want to understand, what is it that we want, what is it that we seek for ourselves all the time, that we are, because always my question sense is that by the time we realize our own so-called emptiness, we are also around a lot of people where our decisions are going to impact. You just talked about that American saying, when mom is not happy, no one is happy. So help us understand, in that backdrop, it impacts lives, it impacts workplaces, it impacts society as a whole. In that sense, I want to understand about this chaos, about stability, about about uh, playing it safe. I thought stability was also a very safe zone.
Well, I think that's what the societal boxes are designed to do, is to give us stability, to give us belonging. Um, but what that adds up to is a comfort zone. And a lot of times to grow internally, you have to step outside of your comfort zone. And you do have to be careful, because if you step way too far outside of your comfort zone, a lot of times that puts you into fight or flight. It puts you into paralysis. You can't actually move. So it's learning to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, to expand that comfort zone so that you can go further. Because what happens is when you're in your comfort zone and you're checking all those boxes and you feel comfortable on the one hand, but on the other hand, you have this internal conflict because you feel disconnected, you feel empty. You're going home at night and numbing, whatever that numbing looks like. For some people, it's drinking alcohol. For others, it's being constantly busy. It's working all the time and never having any downtime, not staying alone. Um, and so whatever that numbing is, you have this internal conflict and you're not going to resolve it until you begin to go in the direction that you feel pulled toward, not pushed toward. And a lot of times we are really good at pushing ourselves. And so getting and checking all those boxes, we do that well, right? And especially the women that I work with are all like me. They're overachievers. They are going to check those boxes whether they think it's good for them or not, because that's what they were told to do. And that's what they've accepted as the path to success. And they are driven to succeed. But at the end of the day, once they've succeeded, that internal conflict is so big that they've got to numb it out. So it is finding an absolute balance in that. And I would say that
Absolutely.
the first thing is to prioritize your how you want to feel. It is absolutely inversing a life, because nobody ever asked me how I wanted to feel at the end of the day. And when I realized I could orient my life toward that and make my choices that align toward that, it was revolutionary. And it feels risky, which is why you've got to expand that comfort zone to be able to go in that direction.
Absolutely, Megan. So let's look at the solutions now. How do I know what is it that I want? Is there a process to know what is it that we want? And how do we know that this is what we want and it is not going to change? That it's not like a child. One will think about being a pilot today, tomorrow into the navy, and third day something else. How do we know what we want? Because you talked about high achieving women. When you are high achiever, a lot of people are are making you that poster girl or poster boy also, that listen, in terms of women empowerment, in terms of achieving breaking new ground, how do you calibrate that perception? Because you start thinking, okay, you have also achieved that empowerment, and now you are looking at something else that makes you happy. So I want to understand that whole let's break the boxes here. Let's look at only you who wants to get something. How do you know what you want at this stage in life?
So I think when you were saying that achievement is empowerment and makes you happy, I would argue that it doesn't. That you obtain it, you do it, and then at the end of the day, you don't feel happy, and then that there's this confusion, this cognitive dissonance inside, and that's where that internal struggle comes from. And that internal struggle outs in many different ways in your life, whether it's overeating, whether it's shopping too much, whatever the numbing behavior is, it will come out. And that is what makes life tolerable in that moment for you. And so the first thing to do is to stop the numbing and connect to yourself, because the numbing gets you out of yourself. You spin up and forward instead of coming back and home into yourself. And you will not know what you truly want, and you will not be able to separate what society wants and what you want if you don't connect first to yourself. And so that's the first of our 4 pillars that we work on in Extraordinary Lives. And it's this idea that you stop being on autopilot, you stop numbing, and you welcome the information that you have in your body that most of us are not aware of because we're so disconnected. So that would be my first step. And within that, there are lots of different tools and processes that we use, from finding your purpose. We work a lot with Simon Sinek's Find Your Why, which is a really cool process that helps people figure out that overarching theme of their life. What is it that their particular skills and experiences add up to that's going to make them feel fulfilled. Because a lot of us struggle with procrastination or motivation issues, and it's because we're not fulfilling our why. We're going up those societal boxes and we're checking them, but we're forcing ourselves with push energy to do it instead of pull energy. And if you know what you want, and you have to be able to get quiet and connect to yourself, but then once you can do that, then it's pull energy, and it's beautiful.
Absolutely. So, how will you find the why? Will your emotions, will your feelings give you that why? Because you talked about feelings that at the end of the day, nobody asks how you are feeling. Is this whole crisis, which was earlier known as midlife crisis, is it that, or is it something different? And we have found another way of putting it into in today's time. How do you look at, where do I find the why? In my emotions, in my intellect, in my, any other thing that is possible? How do we do that?
Well, I would say that you find your why holistically. It isn't a single answer, and a lot of times we separate the heart from the mind, from the gut, and we don't listen to them all together. And they each have information that you need to use to make that. But I think until you connect to yourself and you're willing to take a risk, you're not going to find your why. So a lot of people actually, when we do this, they kind of know their why. It's not a surprise to them, but they didn't have the courage to give themselves permission to live it. Because it does often mean stepping outside of our comfort zone and often stepping out of what society says is the best thing to do. Now, I'm not suggesting that the women that have sort of shifted their lives and literally turned them extraordinary, that they're walking away from society. No, they're still living in society. They're just living it their way, not the way that society tells them. So maybe that just means that they live a slower life. They're not going up the corporate ladder. Or maybe it means they don't have children, because child free is what actually makes them have an extraordinary life and have all the extra time to be able to explore things. Maybe it's going back to school. It could be anything, but whatever the case, they've connected to themselves. They've done the different modalities to understand what their why is, and they can feel it in the connection, in that absolute alignment of mind, of spirit, of heart, of gut. You have to use all of your emotional intelligences to really get clear on what your why is.
Absolutely, Megan. Absolutely. What to do with emotions? Emotions will go with you wherever you go. Now, should we live those emotions? Should we master them? You talk about emotional mastery. What is the best way to do to tackle this thing called emotions? Women are known by emotions. We have to respect that. That's the way they have been made. How should they look at their own emotions?
Well, for me, emotions are data. I spent most of my life blocking emotions. I understood they were bad. You didn't bring them into the workplace. But you know what that is? That is literally making life decisions with 30% of the data that you have. Either that, or it is putting on a lens of only one emotion. So let's say that emotion is anger or frustration or sadness, and you are looking at the world through that lens. And so all of your decisions, everything is colored with that. You're not seeing an objective, holistic view of life. So when we talk about mastering emotions, the first piece of this is welcoming them, right? Most of us avoid them like the plague. So to become an emotional ninja, you need to turn them from your frenemies into your fiercest allies, because they give you the data that you need to make a decision that's in alignment with you. But a lot of us don't do that. So the first step is welcoming them. The second step is separating from them, which kind of sounds weird. We're welcoming them in and then we're getting rid of them again. No, we're actually welcoming them in. We sit with what is. We get really comfortable in that space. And then what we do is we don't leave the emotions. We just rise above them. It's almost as if you take a bird's eye view and you can look at the emotion and you can say, okay, this is telling me X, right? This is telling me that I'm upset about this for a specific reason. And that gives you the ability to say, what is it that I'm going to need to make this situation okay for me? Because the needs hide under those emotions. And so when we learn to decode the emotions and use that data, we identify what we need in the moment, and then that frees us to ask for what we need. And what's funny is this is not rocket science. It's very linear. It makes a lot of sense. And yet almost none of us master it really well. And that's why I think it's a lifetime journey. In fact, there is an American nun who is also a Tibetan Buddhist. She's trained in both philosophies, and she talks about coming back from a Buddhist retreat and feeling very zen, calm in herself, and getting back into the convent and seeing that the forks were not in the correct place in the convent and just getting so frustrated. So even those who have worked their way up and are close to transcending, right? It's a journey of a lifetime. And it's not that I can remember the first time I realized that these emotional bags that I was unpacking, I thought I was unpacking them and then I was never going to feel angry again. And when I felt angry, I was shocked and I had to sit down and say, holy crap, really? But you pick up those bags and everywhere you move, everywhere you go, you take those emotional bags with you. When you put them down and you open them and you unpack them and you learn to process those emotions in the moment, then you're not carrying any baggage with you. You travel so much lighter, and that unleashes your creativity. It is extraordinary.
Absolutely, absolutely. My own understanding is, Megan, is emotions are also like fresh air. You carry it with you. It's always everywhere. But when it's bad air, you know it's bad air. You stop breathing for a moment, and you only let the fresh air come in. Maybe that's the way to deal with emotions. If I that's my way of thinking.
I love that you bring it up as fresh air, because one of the things that helps me unblock stuck emotions is breath work, breathing, and thinking of air as cleansing. It really works.
Absolutely. There is so much to learn from you, Megan, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to be your client, learn from Extraordinary Lives, also from Mel Imagine Your podcast. What's the best way for them to make the best of all these things that you uh, give for people?
So I think the first thing is, if you're interested in exploring this, contact me for a free discovery call, and we will look at what this looks like for you, from your ordinary or stuck life in society to extraordinary. So you can find that in the Calendly link in the show notes. It's just calendly.com/Megan Warren. The second way you can do that is to join us at Extraordinary Lives. There are 3 different levels of membership. I'll send you a link for that. And anyone who mentions the podcast, either for my coaching or for in the Extraordinary Lives link, can get $25 off a session or a membership. So if you aren't ready to take that step, you can go to the facebook.com Me Reimagined group, and you can join and just see what's going on and get a taste of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Get a taste of your own extraordinary life with Megan Warren. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. I had a great time. I really appreciate it.